Hey guys, what's going on? Mike with Sky Spies here, and I want to talk about the D2 and the D3. What do the real side-by-side final images look like of the same targets on the same night through these two scopes? Because that's really where you're going to see the big differences. I'll also touch on some of the spec bumps. Whether you own the D2 and you've been thinking about getting that D3, but you feel it's kind of early, you still love your D2, or whether you're new to smart telescopes or astrophotography or even astronomy in general, we will cover all of that today. And so let's just jump right into that. Now, when it comes to astrophotography in general, the way that images are processed and be able to be viewed by a camera is based on a couple pieces of hardware and software. Now, when it comes to hardware, it's the glass you're using and how far it can zoom and how wide the aperture gets. And then also your focal length, so how far can you zoom? And then you have your sensors. And so all of those aspects that create images have received a bump up in spec on the D3. And if you look at all these spec bumps we're talking, I mean, there's not much of a size difference in these two. It got a little tiny bit bigger and like a 1/10 of a pound heavier, like it's not even really noticeable. So on the D2, our wide angle lens was 24 millimeters, about 2.8 millimeters wide aperture. And on this, it's 35 millimeters or a 3.4 millimeter aperture. Then on the telephoto lens, we had a 100 millimeter telephoto. On this one, we have a 150 telephoto. Now, when it comes to the sensor, that's actually the physical chip that's going to process all this data and create the image. That on this D2 is the Sony IMX415 Starvis sensor, which was a good sensor in general, but now it's got the IMX678 Starvis 2, which is a much better sensor. And when you see these images I'm getting with them on the screen right now, you can see without needing any expertise or experience that one image is clearly better than the other. Now, mind you, these images were taken on the same night with the same two scopes, so this D3 and this D2, pointing at the same object for the same length of time. So you're getting a true apples to apples comparison that show you exactly what each one can do. And as you can see, the D3 really does come out on top. Now on the D2, you got a UHC or a high clarity light pollution style filter that allowed just to kind of cut some of that light pollution in the night sky and let you see better. And it was a good filter all in all. But the way the D2 used, it came with this magnetic filter holder. You would put the filter in it and then you would magnetically stick it to the Dwarf and then it would be able to see through the filters. Now on the D3, I absolutely love what they've done. They actually built the filters into this whole device. And when I click on the app, a filter I want, you can hear it switch inside. There's a physical mechanical change that happens where it looks like they swap out filters. And so I'm not worried about losing these pieces, getting fingerprints, grime, dust, cracking, damaging these filters. They're expensive and they're delicate, and less touching I do with delicate things is the better. So having the filters built into here, one touch on the app and you're good to go with whatever filter is awesome. You have a visibility clarity filter that just helps you look at night skies better. But then you have your astro filter, which will cut out light pollution and help you get a better image overall on your astrophotography, things like galaxies or star clusters. But should you want to get those true cool colors on a piece of nebulae or deep space objects, that's when you can throw in or use the built-in duo band filter and really bring out those colors and make your nebulae pop and just look way cooler than it normally would. And previously, if I wanted that on the D2, I had to go out and buy a third-party 1 1/4 inch filter. That would be a good one, would be a couple $100, and pop it into the Dwarf, and then I have to take care of it. This one, it's built into it, super cool. Now when it comes to the solar filters for solar imaging, the Dwarf 2 still has those, but they did include a kind of permanent fixed filter system like the Dwarf 2, but this one just has the solar filters permanently inside of it and you can pop it on. It's got the same magnetic touch. You can put it on, a magnet holds it in place and it doesn't fall off, which is really nice. And the cylinder is able to close with this one, whereas on the D2, if you had the lens on it, it would not be able to close. It would hit right there. So just some kind of comfort things, ease of use, user features that really did bump up the whole experience on the D3 and D2. So when it comes to shooting modes, not much has changed, although there's a couple new features. In Astro mode, the D2, basically you could set it on a target and take the pictures, and it was awesome. With the D3, you've got a lot more options. So you've now got time lapses. You've also got something very cool called Mosaic. So at a 737 focal length, if you zoom in, say for example, California Nebula, NGC 1499, if I put it on that, I'm too tight on it and I can't see the whole thing in one shot. Mosaic mode will hit that shot we can see, and then it will move up. and it will keep taking images in a mosaic, and then it will stitch them all together when it's done. So those objects that are too big for our focal length, we can now image in one clean stitched together picture, which is very, very cool. They've also added astro or auto planning, whatever you want to call it. Basically, you can set a target, a time, all your settings, the number of images you want, and go to bed. And this thing will do everything for you and turn itself off when it's done. Super, super cool feature. All right, let's talk about how these are powered, because that is one big area where I think the D2 still kind of shines, and actually on the next aspect too. The D2 has a built-in 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and the D3 has a 10,000 milliamp hour battery. So you're probably thinking, well, how's that any better? Well, that part's not. It's definitely better on the D3. The difference is on the D2, there's a battery compartment. So I could pull this off and pull out this battery. And the deluxe package came with two. So you had two batteries to kind of power this, which gave you a lot of use and ability. So if I wanted to camp with this, I could just bring both batteries, maybe even a little power inverter or a power bank, and charge this while I did it. With the D3, I'm gonna have to rely on the 10,000 milliamp hour battery or strictly plug it into a power source. I don't have the extra auxiliary batteries. Now, batteries can get bad over time. They can cause damage to devices over time. So I think all in all, it's a net win for users, but I like having just that peace of mind that I can always throw in an extra battery while I'm charging another battery on this one versus the D3. I either have to rely on this power bank or just plug it in dedicated. Now, one thing I really like as far as image quality, because that's one of the most important things. So we talked about the focal length and sensors and all that light gathering, but the final image product on this is so much better on the Dwarf 3. To me, that fully sells the Dwarf 3 over the Dwarf 2. Now, they both can still do deep sky objects, they can do galaxies, star clusters, anything you pointed at, it can shoot, but they also have solar mode, so you can get solar images that I'll put some up here side by side, and then you can do even lunar photography, and it will not only take these images, but it will stack them real time too, and just really bring out these details that you see. But as you can see, once again, the D2 versus the D3 comes out on top every time. Look guys, all in all, there's a big spec bump, and the great thing about electronics, unlike other things, is these get better and better and better, and they don't really change size. The best thing about this is I took this on a trip with me because I wanted to bring a full camera rig like this. I went to Hawaii, and Hawaii has Mauna Kea, one of the tallest observatories in the world, on one of the higher elevations. It's at 14,000 feet, I believe, or 16,000. And taking a big telescope rig up there, flying with it, trusting TSA and my bags to take care of this, I'm not gonna trust them. And if they did damage it, good luck trying to get that stuff reimbursed, explaining the value of all this telescope equipment. Versus this, it's not gonna take the same images as a dedicated rig would, but this packs up, goes into your carry-on, and it's no problem at all. No one's gonna mess with it, no one's gonna damage it, no one's gonna steal it. It's in your possession the whole time with your carry-on bag. Road trips, vacations, camping, you just can't beat the size and portability of something like this. And when you compare these images to that of, say, some of the other more popular smart telescopes out there, I don't want to throw any companies under the bus, but go look at their user reviews and their real submitted images they provide. I think the D3 comes out on top almost every single time. These smart telescopes are kind of a new wave of astronomy and astrophotography. I'm all in. I think they're lots of fun, and I think they get regular people to just get out there and shoot more. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If I didn't answer anything you did want to know on the differences between the D2 and D3, definitely let me know. I will respond personally to all of your comments. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys clear skies.